This is a company that started 10 years ago with just one employee. And today we are 400 and we're continuing to grow. And this is a recognition for all the people that have been working extremely hard to get Energean to where it is today. And it's also a recognition that in this country, although very few people believe that it is doable, you can actually start without being from a family with a background in investment. You can start from pretty much ground zero and work your way all the way to creating a billion-dollar company, which is what Energean is all about. Well, it has been an amazing journey, and back in 2007, as a petroleum engineer, I was watching what was going on in the only producing asset in Greece, the Prinos field. And a couple of years before, in 2005, there was an announcement that there was a discovery of 1 billion barrels after drilling a dry well. And the field was in a mess. The workers were looking desperately for a new management, a new leadership, and that created a huge opportunity. My vision at the time was to create the only oil and gas producing company in Greece, a company that would be able to go outside of the borders and become the leading independent E&P player in the East Mediterranean region. We are committed to our business. We are committed to finding and developing more oil and gas. We're committed to doing it with total respect to the environment and the local community, and that is extremely important in our business. And we're committed to generating shareholder value through doing the right business transactions and not things that are just news that the market wants to do to create recognition. I think if we wanted to become, as we are becoming, a leading independent in the East Mediterranean, we were obliged to go outside Greece. Greece, in the hydrocarbon sector, is a country that has only one producer, and that is Energean. We have invested more than $350 million in the last decade in the Prinos field and have created hundreds of jobs, have brought drilling rigs to Greece, have kept the Greece on the hydrocarbon producing map around the world, and at the same time helped governments and politicians to be educated how to bring investment in the exploration side. But we are still a long way away from being able to talk about further developments in this business. So any company that wants to grow, and this has been a fundamental pillar of our business, has to have a very balanced portfolio of assets. You have to be in production to have stable cash flow, you have to have development to grow, and you have to have exploration for upside. So in Greece, the investment in Prinos has been continuing for the last decade, but we needed a big transformational project that would take us to the next level as a company. And that's when Israel came to the picture in 2015, when the rest of the industry was in crisis, and when the rest of the industry was trying to survive or even go bankrupt. A lot of our peers in 2014-15, following the oil price crisis, either went out of business or were engaged in restructuring loan agreements. We had prepared ourselves by strengthening our balance sheet. We brought a US fund, Third Point, as an investor in 2013 in the company, and that strengthened the balance sheet, paid off all our debt in 2015, and got ready for what actually happened, which was the crash of the oil price. At the same time, in 2013, we moved all our offtake agreements from Hellenic Petroleum to BP. And that gave us a lot of protection against the Greek financial crisis. And when the banks closed, when we had capital controls in Greece, when a lot of the Greek-related risks hit businesses in this country, we were again prepared and ready to take opportunities. When we took over the project in Israel, we never underestimated the challenge of operating a $1.6 billion investment. That needs capital, debt and equity. And the equity part of the project in Israel, we needed to raise from a market. The options were to go to the private equity sector or look for public funding through a listing on a market. London is a natural place for oil and gas. London understands oil and gas. The East Mediterranean is a place which is a lot more familiar for UK investors rather than the other markets like the New York Stock Exchange or the Toronto Exchange, where people are more focused on the US side of the business. So London was a natural place for us to go. So it wasn't an easy task. And when we rang the bell in March, when we opened the first trading day of our stock, and the president of the London Stock Exchange mentioned that this is the largest IPO ever done on the premium segment of the London Stock Exchange from an E&P company. The first IPO done over a long period of time, and the biggest IPO across all sectors in the first quarter of 2018. That was when really the challenge really sunk into me, and I said, we have achieved to do something that very few people believed was doable when we started. One of the key characteristics of us is that we deliver on our promises. And when we saw Israeli investors, they wanted to invest in Energean. A lot of them did, and they supported us during the IPO, but some wanted the ability to invest through a local market and a listing on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. So we promised that we would proceed with a dual listing of our shares from London also to the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange market. The Israeli government had to deal with two major problems. One was the lack of competition that had driven prices up. The second one was security of supply, because the only gas producing asset in the country is Tamar. And those were two fundamental pillars of their strategy, the gas framework that they signed and supported by everyone in the government, all the way to the Prime Minister. And they needed an operator that would come in and deliver the project as fast as possible. And there are companies that are bigger than us, with a lot more capital and a lot more experience probably in deep waters. But it's extremely important for countries like Israel, like Greece, like Cyprus, to have operators that are dedicated, that are committed, and that make these projects top priority in their agenda. I will give you a small example. There's been a discovery in Cyprus of more than 4 TCF, Aphrodite, that remains undeveloped for a long time. We took 2.4 TCF, half the size of Aphrodite, in 2017. And by March 2018, because we were committed, because we were dedicated, because this was the top project on our agenda, we managed to raise the money, sign the contracts, and take the final investment decision in record times. And we will be delivering gas in March of 2021, fulfilling both objectives of the Israeli government. We brought competition to the market, prices have come down by about 15%, and we bring security of supply with the fastest development that anybody could imagine. So the government, in our view, made the right choice of an operator that was dedicated to the project. Now, East Med is an area that has given great discoveries, just to name a few: Tamar, Leviathan, Zor, Calypso in Cyprus, and I'm sure there's going to be more discoveries. And in our blocks, in Energean's blocks, over and above the Karish and Tanin proven reserves that we have recently announced that we see, and our auditors have confirmed, another 7 TCF, 7 trillion cubic feet of gas, of prospective recoverable resources sitting right next to the infrastructure that we will be developing. So there is going to be more gas. We will have more gas discoveries in the area, and we will need to find ways to export this gas outside of Israel. So export routes are absolutely necessary to link the East Mediterranean region with the big markets of Egypt, Europe, and potentially Turkey. Obviously, the big project that is being discussed is the East Med gas pipeline, which is heavily supported by the various governments, the Israeli government, the Cypriot government, and the Greek government. It's a very ambitious project, a challenging one. Pipelines that go through these water depths have not been done before. I'm not saying it cannot be done, but any project, and the pipeline specifically, has to have and make commercial sense. So I fully support the idea of a pipeline, because that would give us as a business a route to export our gas into Europe, but there has to be commercial justification behind investments of that size. The same applies with the pipelines that would connect Cyprus with Egypt, which have been signed very recently. And there we have made a proposal to the Cypriot government to supply gas, natural gas, through a pipeline at a much more competitive price than LNG. And that creates another export route from Israel to Cyprus at prices that are a lot less expensive than what are being discussed through LNG. In the Aegean, in Prinos, we produce oil from sandstones, and we've been producing oil from this field for the last 30 years, so we know extremely well how to do it. On the western part of the country, Katakolo would be the pilot that would help us and others understand how to produce oil from carbon. So that's the real value of Katakolo. It's not so much the volume of production. We are focusing right now on filling up the capacity of the floating production, storage and offloading vessel that we have in Israel. We took a decision, although we only have 4.2 BCM of gas contracts signed in Israel, to double the capacity of the whole infrastructure we're building in Israel. So the FPSO and the pipeline system can all handle up to 8 BCM. So our immediate goal is to find more gas next to the assets that we already have and next to the infrastructure that we're building. So doubling the capacity was a strategic decision for us, because this is going to be the only FPSO in the whole of the East Mediterranean. This can become a gas hub because it's infrastructure that can handle gas not only from us but also from other operators in the region. Then, growing the circle outside the main hub, our next challenge is to bring gas to other countries. And I mentioned earlier about Cyprus. Cyprus needs gas. We can supply gas long-term to the island at very competitive rates, saving the island from taking their gas, sending it to Egypt, liquefying it, shipping it back, regasifying it, and paying a lot higher prices than what we're able to offer. Same for countries in the vicinity of Israel. We're talking to other markets around Israel to be able to export. The third part of our strategy is countries that we're not yet present in. So we're evaluating opportunities in all the Southeast European and Mediterranean countries, and looking at the next Prinos or looking at the next Karish Tanin. But always, as I said before, capital discipline, making the right decision for the shareholder, making sure that we add value to our company and to the host governments by doing what others are not able to do. That is what Energean is all about. We are not the company that will compete with Exxon, Shell, BP, Chevron, Total, the big players, but we are a company that can go in and take a difficult situation and make it happen, making it our top priority and dedicating all our resources and our abilities to make this a commercial reality. So we see opportunities with the oil price rising. Confidence is coming back into the sector. We can see more and more activity on the M&A front in this business. So we'll be very careful not to make the wrong move. Our corporate social responsibility activities are extremely important for us and are at the top of our agenda. And a prime example is what is happening in the city of Kavala, which is where we have been producing oil for the last 30 years. The local community there has been extremely supportive of the business. We've never had any issues. We give jobs to the local community, and we work in total harmony with the fisheries, with the hotels, the people that are in the tourist business. And as an example, I can tell you that Kavala, which is a beautiful place to visit, and Thasos, the island next to our platforms, has next to us 16 blue flags, indicating that the beaches and the sea is beautiful and millions of tourists are attracted to the area. So we work very closely with the mayors of the cities that we operate, with the various businesses, to do whatever is necessary to support the local communities. We understand the needs, and we work very closely with the municipalities, the prefectures, to target activities that help prove that oil and gas and tourism can coexist.